Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. And I have to say, this is a beer that I am very curious about because I've had some really nice examples of this style category before, and this one is just a little bit different from what I've had from them previously. So fingers crossed this is another good beer. For this one then, we are going to go a little bit to the south of me here in Lund to Malmö, and we're having a look at another beer from the wonderful Hyllie Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called the Whaka. It comes in at 5.1% ABV, and this one is a New Zealand style Pilsner, apparently with Nelson Sauvin hops. So yeah, really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. I know that this brewery do some really nice lager beers. Probably the my favourite beer from these guys, I would say, would be the Scones Lager. I do like the slightly more malty profile that one has, and that beer, I just think that's one of the best lagers I've had in recent times. Actually, it just sits with me really well. But they also have the Fiend Pilsner as well, which is a really nice, more dry kind of style of lager beer, and I think. I think that one actually does have a little bit of Citra in it, but I've never had a Pilsner beer that has had Nelson Sauvin in it. I mean, Fiend Pilsner has a little bit of Citra. I also remember the Don Limon from Munich Brew Mafia. That's a beautiful single hop Citra Pilsner actually, and I would recommend you try that if you get the chance. So I think this idea of using the kind of higher alpha acid hops in Pilsner beers is something that should be played with a little bit more. I think there's quite a few interesting hops. Nelson Sauvin, Enigma, Hallertau Blanc could be a very interesting one to put in some of these Pilsners as well, actually. So yeah, I look forward to seeing if Hyllie Bryggeri experiment with that over the next little while. But in my opinion, like I say, Hyllie Bryggeri, they really know what they're doing with the lager beers. If you are interested in trying beers from this brewery, I would recommend that you keep an eye on their Lab series. They've had a double IPA, a black IPA, the Rauchmärzen, and also the Nitro Stout so far. Actually, they've had some really good beers through that. But if you want something a bit more classic, the Hyllie Pan West Coast IPA is a really nice old school West Coast IPA, and like I say, the Scones Lager is probably my favourite from them these days. But a very capable brewery in my experience so far, and I always keep an eye out for what these guys are doing. But this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 1st of December 2020, and I guess it will start to reach other places a little bit later on than that. But yeah, fingers crossed this is another good beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hyllie Bryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list fairly soon. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you show the channel is massively appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Hyllie Bryggeri. So Hyllie Bryggeri, as I've told you before, started off as the home brewing experiments of Michael Napthorst, who's from Vinchia, just a few minutes to the south of Hyllie, which is the kind of southwesternish part, I guess you could say, of Malmö. So for a number of years he was a home brewer, and he built up his own brewery in his garage, and he was experimenting with lots of different styles there with his friends, and he started brewing back in around 2013. So he's worked for a number of years in the plumbing industry, and for a period of time he was working 4 days as a plumber and then 1 day with the brewery. But he was friends with Torsten Ekne, who was the original owner of the Beer Ditch bar in Malmö, which is quite a popular spot actually. I do need to do a little out and about video there at some stage to show you that. He was, these guys were good friends, and so when Beer Ditch was formed, Michael decided to turn his garage brewery into a proper company, so he registered Hyllie Bryggeri officially back in 2015. But these days, they've grown quite substantially. Michael is joined at the brewery by Erik Fritihoff, who is a partner in the company, and he deals with the sales and marketing side of things. He's also one of the founders of the Great Swedish Beer Festival, which is pretty cool. But in 2019, The brewery joined forces with Psycho Pipes and Limhamns Brewery to form a new company that owned a brewery building, and it was there that the three companies were brewing their beer for a period of time. They had a 1,000 litre brew kit, but unfortunately this arrangement only lasted for a few months before they moved out to a farm near Fintria, again to the south of Malmö, just because I don't know exactly what happened there, but the agreement just did not work out. But throughout 2020 they've been contract brewing a number of their beers, as well as brewing some of them themselves, but they've been just invested in a new premises in Malmö that's going to be converted into a brewery with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and they've recruited Johan Lagerkrantz to come in as their head brewer, and he'd spent a number of years in New Zealand, so I'm guessing that's probably why they've done this beer. This might be one of the first ones that he's brewed with his own recipes, actually, so that's quite exciting. Actually, I'm very curious to see what this one has in store for us. But as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 70 different kinds of beer, and as I say, you can always get some really interesting things from them. So yeah, this is a brewery that I most definitely keep an eye on. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Hyllie Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this beer then. Very curious about this. So yeah, I think that is Mike. I don't know if that is Michael that's meant to be on the side there. I'm trying to remember what Michael looks like. I've never met him in person. I've only seen photos of him actually, but it could be Eric. I honestly don't know. I think Eric, if I remember right, I don't know if Michael has a beard or not. I think Eric does though, and I think Eric might wear glasses. So yeah, I need to go and meet these guys in person at some point. Once they get their new brewery set up, it would be nice to go and do a Meet the Brewery segment with them, and they were keen to do that, but I think obviously COVID-19 and stuff, not the ideal time, and as I say, it would be quite cool to do this when they open their new brewery actually, and show you it all. But yeah, as you can see, there is the Hyllie Bryggeri symbol there, just in the background. Hyllie, of course, whenever you go to Hyllie, on the train you'll see the famous water tower, and that is also on the back of the can there. So yeah, the artwork on this one is a little bit different. Does it say who the artist is? No. Maybe it's behind this sticker here. They've got another sticker on here for the pant for some reason. But yeah, 5.1% New Zealand Pilsner, this one, with Nelson Sauvin hops added to the brew. Yeah, 330ml can. I don't like Pilsners in 330ml cans. I'm just going to say this now, because I think they need to be in at least 440s. 330 is just too small an amount, I think, to sell like a Pilsner or a Helles Lager in. 440s or 330s, please. I'm just going to say that. But maybe in the future, this is something they'll do. This is maybe a smaller batch that they've done, and I guess if they're contract brewing this one, they are limited, so we'll let them away with that. We will let them away with that. But yeah, I don't like Pilsners and lager beers in 330s. These need to be half litres or 440s, definitely. But yeah, there we go. That looks pretty nice. So yeah, we'll get this beer out into the glass. So yeah, as you can see and as you would expect, from a Pilsner beer, this one's poured a lovely bright golden straw colour. If we shine the light through that, yeah, it is, you know, very kind of pale yellow golden straw colour, as you'd expect. You can see crystal clear, this one. So yeah, obviously filtered, but you can see it's got a nice solid 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice actually. I like how this one goes together. But yeah, it certainly looks like a very nice beer, I have to say, a very nicely done Pilsner. But yeah, as we know, Nelson Sauvin, big beast of a hop, 16% alpha acid normally. It can have a, you know, a lot of people associate it with those lovely soft kind of green, white, grapey sort of flavours, but it can have a hell of a spiciness to it actually, which isn't surprising when you consider it's 16% alpha acid. I was surprised when I learned that, because I actually thought it was, you know, about 13-14%, something like that, but no, 16. Quite a few of the New Zealand hops though are quite low alpha acid. If I remember rightly, like Waiti I think is like 4% or something, but all of the hops there have really nice fruity characters to them, you know. Some great hops down in New Zealand. Rakal was always one of my favourites actually. That would be interesting, a Rakal Pilsner. That'd be something for them to think about. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we get on. Nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So yeah. Ooh, that does smell pretty nice. So yeah, the one thing you're always going to get with a Pilsner, I mean, these beers are definitely not the most complex in terms of their aroma profile, but they're a difficult, you know, for brewers, these are a very, you know, it's a very technically testing beer to get actually. You know, if you can do a Pilsner right, you're definitely a good brewer in that sense, and, you know, Hyllie Bryggeri, as I say, are good when it comes to lagers. But yeah, this one's quite interesting actually. It smells very, it really smells like, you know, very oily and almost, not sharp isn't the right word, but kind of pungent in some ways. So you can smell a little bit of, you can smell a wee bit of breadiness under there, but for me this beer, the base of this beer really leans towards that kind of hoppy oiliness, and also, you know, also that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity oily kind of thing. It really leans towards that actually. When you sugar the beer up a little bit, when you sugar the beer up a little bit, you start to get more of the kind of bready aspects of the beer. You can really smell a nice little bit of that white bready note to it, and you get a lot of the Pilsner malt obviously. Pilsner malt is one that I've always found is a pain in the arse to try and describe for you, because it's really, really with Pilsner malt you smell a bit of crispness and you smell a little bit of a biscuity, McVitie's digestive sort of thing. That's exactly what you get out of this beer, so you get a nice little bit of a kind of white bready base to the beer. Maybe a little bit of a kind of bread crusty note, and then on top of that you get the nice, you do get the nice sort of sweet McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of things. There are a few of those kind of grainy aspects to the biscuit as well, but yeah, it has kind of exactly what you would expect. The one thing that I'm going to say is quite strange about this beer for me on the aroma is that you don't have, you know, this beer, it's really the floral, we'll talk about the hops now, so you get a lot of floral aromaticity on the nose with this one, and it's a very pungent and almost very deep floral aromaticity, and you know, for me it's very strange to smell a Pilsner like that doesn't have a bit of the, you know, the lighter German noble qualities to it. So I'm guessing from this aroma it is single hopped with Nelson Sauvin. There's not like a German base hop in there and then it's Nelson Sauvin that's added later on to flavour it. I'm guessing this one is, you know, single hop Nelson Sauvin, just from the aroma, because you get a real, you can feel on the edge of your nose there's a hell of a kind of floral, deep aromatic quality to this one. So yeah, you do get a little bit of grassiness out of the beer, but as I say, I find that it really leans towards that big floral aromatic side of things, and then you've also got a nice little bit of you know, that kind of green grapey sort of thing there, but again it definitely comes across as a little bit more sort of pungent and oily. It almost smells as if the beer just has a little bit of zestiness to it in some ways, which is quite strange to say about Nelson Sauvin, because like I said, normally you associate this hop with being very soft and white and green grapey. That's what I would always associate with. Sometimes, you know, sometimes a bit of gooseberry actually. Sometimes it can be a little bit more oily and gooseberry-like in some ways. But yeah, this smells like a really interesting beer actually, and it's interesting just to see how these you know, how these Nelson Sauvin hops are going to behave in this one, and it certainly affects the aroma. The floral aromaticity is very different compared to other Pilsners I've had. It's strange to smell a Pilsner that does not have that German noble quality to it, but you know, we'll go into this one and see what it turns out like in the flavour. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is called What the Whaka, 5.1% New Zealand Pilsner from Hyllie Bryggeri down in Malmö, just to the south of me here in Skåne in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this, very curious. Slange, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that is nice. I'm going to say straight away, I'm absolutely right to complain about that being 330. 440s, 500s, that's that. Pilsners, I think that should be a rule amongst craft brewers. If you're doing a lager beer, 440s, 500s, that's it. Either one, it's fine. But 330s, no, too small. But yeah, this is a really nice Pilsner beer, this one. It is actually, it does have a nice little bit of dryness to it actually, which is quite interesting. I'm just noticing there's a wee bit of something like suspended in the the right in the middle of the glass there, and there's bubbles coming off it. That's really strange. Don't know if you guys can see it on the camera there, but right in the centre of the glass there is just something suspended and a wee bit of bubbles coming off it. That's really weird. Maybe I had a little bit of dust in my beard or something. Who knows? But yeah, okay, it's all protein. There we go. But yeah, that's another absolutely solid lager beer from Hyllie Bryggeri. And yeah, it does kind of, if we're comparing this to other ones they've done before, it is a little bit more like the Fiend Pilsner. It definitely has a bit more of that dryness to it. So yeah, I like this one. I like this one. Does it top the Scones Lager for me? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure, but it is very nice actually. I do think I like this one a little bit better than Fiend Pilsner, but I wouldn't be surprised, just going from the flavour profile, I wouldn't be surprised if the malt, if they'd used the same, if not, or are very similar malt base in this one. There is something just quite familiar about this actually. But yeah, this is a good one. The other beers you could compare this to in Sweden would be the likes of the Pils from OO Brewing up in Gothenburg. It is kind of similar to that one as well. It's got a nice dry edge to it. But yeah, let's break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go. So straight away with this beer, you can feel a nice little bit of a kind of bready quality, just blanket in the middle of your tongue. There's a real dryness comes out of this one, as I say. The Pilsner, the dry Pilsner malt comes out of this one a little bit later on. But yeah, I like how this goes together in that sense. Yeah, so yeah, straight away with this beer, I think the more you drink of this as well, the smoother it gets actually. So it's got a really nice kind of just smoothness in the malt base there, which I really can appreciate with this one. So yeah, nice smoothness there, and that builds up. But then as you move further into the aftertaste, especially on the back third of your palate, you can feel more of those kind of very crisp and slightly dry malty characters coming out of the beer. So it's almost like you've got a kind of bready centre on the middle third of your tongue and the back third of your tongue. You've got a slightly kind of bready centre, and then on the edges of that you start to get more of you do get a little bit more of a kind of dry Pilsner malty type quality coming out of the beer. So I really like how that goes together in this one. You don't get so much of a kind of biscuity, caramelly sort of McVitie's digestive sort of thing. There's a teeny bit of that in the very centre of the palate, but not overly much in my mind. Not overly much. So yeah, this is it is one of the kind of smoother, kind of more bready leaning pilsners that you're going to come across in my mind. But I like that about it for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's quite well carbonated as well. I'm getting a wee bit of gas off it. But yeah, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, I do get a little bit of earthiness out of this one. As you move further forward though, it does become, really quite floral and aromatic. It's actually got quite a bit of spice to it. As I said to you, Nelson Sauvin can have a hell of a spice to it. 16% alpha acid, so that's not surprising. The level of spice that you're getting out of this one, the way that you would get that would be adding the hop as as an early addition hop, and I think that's what proves that this beer is just is single hopped in that sense, because yeah, if you add these high alpha acid hops early in the boil, you get more. You get more, pardon me, of the kind of floral aromaticity out of them rather than what you would later on. Because if you add them later on in the boil, of course, you get flavour and aroma. So you really can see another side to Nelson Sauvin in this beer, that big floral, aromatic and quite spicy character that it has. But then round the very front curve of the palate is just a little bit lighter and grassy. And I think that suits it as well actually. So I think the big spiciness that you have out of this beer and the kind of drier aspects of the Pilsner malt, they go together really quite nicely. Front third of your palate though, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the hops. So let's focus on that just now. So yeah, you do get a nice little bit of as I say, you do get a nice bit of, how how would you say, you do get for me, it's quite, you get the kind of white, green, grapey sort of things out of this, but they come across as a little bit more just pungent and zesty in this one, which is quite interesting. I mean, on the front edge of your tongue, you do have a real zestiness to this beer, which I think is quite interesting. So I really like that about it. In fairness, but yeah, the soft white green grapey notes, they come out a little bit later on in the aftertaste, but it's almost like on that front third of your palate, just underneath that white green grapey thing that you expect, it just has a little bit of that floral, aromatic, spicy kind of thing. So that's really quirky about this beer. That's something that I did not expect, actually. I really did not expect that about this one. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting point to make about this beer, I have to say. So yeah, that's the flavour profile of this one is really quite interesting. I certainly like this beer. I think the Nelson Sauvin works in it very, very well, but I would love to see them try it with I'd love to see them try this Pilsner with Enigma or something. I would like to see them try a few Helles beers with the slightly more malty, the slightly sweeter malty profile as well. I think that could be a very interesting experiment, to be honest. So yeah, I think it would be cool if Hyllie sort of take on the mantra of experimenting with the lager beers a bit more. I think that could be a really interesting thing for them going forward, and I wonder if that's what they're going to do here. I wonder if maybe this is going to be the start of a kind of New Zealand hop series, and I guess if they've got Johan in there as well, then maybe he will, probably with his experience he's had down there. I do want to get back to New Zealand and try a few more of the beers down there, actually. I would love to get back down there and just explore a little bit, but we'll see. That's something for the future. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the flavour profile. I think we've described this one quite nicely. Quite similar to the Fiend Pilsner in my mind. But obviously you've got a slightly different profile to this one. But I like this. This is quite a nice dry, bitey Pilsner, if you like. That's how I would describe it. But the malty side does have a bit of smoothness to it. In terms of the mouthfeel, as you would expect, this is quite a light-bodied beer. Yeah, quite light-bodied. Carbonation does have a good bit of crispness to it. I think there's a wee touch of oiliness to this one, which, to be honest, you're always going to get, I think, when you're using a slightly higher alpha acid hop. Not surprising. But yeah, I really like how that side of this beer goes together. The malty side of this one is done really quite nicely. So in terms of the hoppy bitterness of this one, I think this has got a bit more. I think this might be a 30 or maybe even 40 IBU Pilsner. I think this one does have a good bit of bite to it. It could be even more than that. This is my weakest point on the reviews, is telling you the IBUs, because sometimes I underestimate, sometimes I overestimate. That's my weakest point. But yeah, on the malty side of things, it does have a good little bit of dryness to it. There's not so much sweetness in this one that you might get from some of the other lager beers from Hyllie Bryggeri, and the fruits, as I say, are quite, they're a wee bit almost drier, to be honest, because you get that kind of floral, aromatic-y, spicy sort of thing sitting underneath them on the front of the palate. So there's a few aspects to the mouthfeel of this beer, I think, that are very, very interesting. But overall, as a Pilsner beer, I think it is very, very well done again. So thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri. If you like the Fiend Pilsner, you are going to enjoy this one, I think. And it wouldn't surprise me if the recipe is fairly similar, actually, just with, obviously, with Nelson Sauvin hops. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the What the Whaka 5.1% Pilsner beer from Hyllie Bryggeri in Malmö, and I look forward to seeing their new brewery. And I think they were talking about opening up a bar as well. I might need to see if I can snag a job in there. That would be awesome. I'd love to do a little bit of bartending. It's something that I've never done, actually. I actually would even do that, 1 or 2 nights a week on top of my full-time job. But yeah, that would be awesome to do. So yeah, who knows? It'd be cool to work for Hyllie Bryggeri, I have to say, because I love the lager beers. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. The What the Whaka 5.1% New Zealand style Pilsner with Nelson Sauvin from Hyllie Bryggeri, currently in Vintria, to the south of Malmö, but very soon moving to the centre of the city. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know your favourite beers from Hyllie Bryggeri, and you will be seeing more reviews from these guys at some point soon. And we will see about sorting out a Meet the Brewery segment with these guys as well. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and I'll catch you guys very soon.